So we have 3 focus areas, and those focus areas are infant vitality, and we want to, and by infant vitality, quite simply, we want to ensure that every baby, regardless of their race, their zip code, their family income, lives to see their first birthday. The second focus area we have is unsheltered homelessness. We want to reduce the number of individuals and families who are experiencing unsheltered homelessness in our community. And we also want to work to provide improved access to housing stability for our immigrant and refugee neighbors. So why did we choose these focus areas? In some ways, it seems like a no-brainer. Why wouldn't we want those things? But we know that having access to safe and stable housing is a critical social determinant of health. Despite the efforts of so many organizations in the community, like Celebrate One and all of their partners, infant mortality rates in Franklin County remain alarmingly high for Black babies. So that's a reason that we chose infant vitality. And in terms of our immigrant and refugee communities, we know that they absolutely do lack access to equitable access, not just access, equitable access to safe and affordable housing. Some of you may have seen this document. It's the Welcoming City document that really drills down on why our immigrant and refugee neighbors have inequitable access to housing. And some of those reasons are the same as they are for everyone in the community. There exists a lack of affordable housing. There's a limited supply of housing. There's also a lack of knowledge about the services and programs that support renting and home ownership, and a lack of access to those services. Other barriers include language and an understanding really of American culture and how to access government services. And also along with that goes mistrust, depending on where someone is coming from in the world. It's important to note that these focus areas tie directly to Mayor Ginther's equity agenda. And we wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because it's a really, it's a platform upon which, it's a platform and a framework that really is informing policy on so many levels, as well as service delivery for city government. Back in February of 2020, Mayor Ginther, in his State of the City address, really talked about his equity agenda, which called out racism and discrimination everywhere it exists, as well as his plans to address it. And this was well before nationwide declarations of racism as a public health crisis, even as the city was making that declaration, as well as Franklin County. It was prior to, just on the verge of the COVID-19 pandemic being declared by the World Health Organization, prior to George Floyd's murder and that summer of unrest nationwide. So even before all of these significant events occurred, the mayor had already identified his equity agenda. So in late 2021, after the administration had an opportunity to sort of catch its breath, we chose to revisit the equity agenda and really continue to advocate for change and take a look at and reflect on the needs and the sentiments of the moment. And the important thing to know about the equity agenda is it's not, it really is a living document, and it's going to be quantifiable. And so we wanted to share some of that with you because this work directly aligns with that equity agenda. We have a framework. Whoops, I want to go back. I don't know why my screen is going crazy. As I said, the internet will have a surprise for you every day of the week. Let me see if I can get it to go back. Okay, so the framework for the equity agenda is called Opportunity Rising. It's a framework that will be shared in due time, but we want you to sort of see the snapshot of what that framework is. It's looking at economic stability, safe and resilient communities, as well as health and well-being. So allowing Columbus residents to really equitably prosper and grow through collaborative action to dismantle racism. And we are all a part, right, of that collaborative action. So, oh my gosh, these slides. I'm sorry about that. I'm going to try to get it to stop and go back. They're on a roll. Okay. So as you saw with the other slide, that sort of looked like a sun. There's many rays on that diagram, and one of them being health and well-being. And so directly in that space is where we can address infant vitality. It's not just an idea and an aspiration, but it's something that we can really look at how we are making quantifiable inroads into addressing infant vitality. I'm scared to try to move this slide forward because I feel like you're going to see 10, but what can I do? Ah, okay. All right. So the next slide, it talks about another ray on that diagram, which is economic stability. So housing stability for our immigrant and refugee neighbors, and reducing unsheltered homelessness so that we can make sure that every Columbus resident is stably housed. Those are vital to economic stability. So just showing you, we just wanted to share with you the framework, right, that this notice of funding availability will fit into. So Opportunity Rising, as I said, is that framework. And we really want to empower every Columbus resident, and all of you are our partners in this, helping Columbus residents to prosper and grow. And we want to take collaborative action. We want to act together to dismantle racism. So we wanted to share this with you. We're acting intentionally. The city is acting intentionally in policy creation and reform, resource allocation, to really empower individuals who have been historically marginalized based on race, empower them to thrive, because we really cannot step into that role. We can't step into being a 21st century city if we are still having residents that are really bound by the vestiges of structural inequality and racism. So another linkage that we can make to this opportunity rising and the mayor's equity agenda, we know that American Rescue Plan Act funds were made available to the community because we want to really address nonprofit organizations that have been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. I know everyone's camera is off. I bet you would see a big show of hands of organizations that have been negatively impacted. Your budgets, your staffing, everything. It's great. So we're all, so we're sort of peeling back the layers of this onion to show how this RFP goes straight back to the equity agenda, because we have a lot of work to do in this space. So this funding is supporting the operations of nonprofit organizations that have been negatively impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to remind everyone, please, if your camera is on, turn your camera off so that we can hopefully get through this shaky audio. Thank you. So let's talk about the support that we want to provide through Elevate. Elevate is it's for neither programs or projects. It's for neither one. We really are looking at providing organizational capacity and operating support. So we want to support your organization as you step into executing your mission in the community. We want to support your day-to-day operations so that you can focus on your work in addressing infant vitality, unsheltered homelessness, and housing stability for immigrants and refugees. We're really turning the funding model upside down. We're turning it on its head. I know all of you, don't raise your hands. We want to just hopefully keep everything stable. But ordinarily, when you are applying for funding, there isn't any funding available for operating support. We know you have to keep your lights on. We know you have to pay your staff. We know that you have expenses that cannot always be captured within the normal structures of a grant. So we are providing an opportunity for you to access operating support, which we know is vital for you to be able to address your mission and fulfill your mission in the community. So how much money is available? The City of Columbus has set aside approximately $5 million in ARPA funding. And we want to call out to you that this is federal funding to support the human services sector. And we want you to know that there will be significant reporting requirements. And so we just want you to be aware of that as we move through this process and get to the point where we've identified which organizations will be funded. We will get into what those reporting requirements are, but we want you to know before you even dip a toe into this water that this is federal funding, and the reporting requirements really will be sort of stepped up. So if you don't feel that your organization is in a place right now where you are ready to handle the rigorous reporting requirements that go along with federal funds, you may want to think twice about making an application. We also want you to know that we are going to have another notice of funding availability that will be issued later this summer, releasing an estimated $5 million in funding, and it will be general revenue and other city funding. So the reporting requirements won't be as strict and rigorous as the ARPA federal reporting requirements will be. So we just want you to as we proceed through this process, just be aware. And if you are saying that the federal guidelines and reporting requirements are too much, there will be another opportunity to apply for funds. So, who may apply? We are looking for organizations that are registered as nonprofit organizations, 501c3 with the Internal Revenue Service. We want organizations that have been in operations for at least 1 year, in compliance with the State of Ohio Attorney General's office, and in good standing with the Internal Revenue Service. We're doing something different this year in terms of how you access funding, how much you qualify to apply for. So the request this year with this notice of funding ability is tied to your organization's 2022 board approved budget. So whatever budget your organization has passed for this current fiscal year, we will have 3 budget tiers. So we're breaking up organizations into 3 tiers. Organizations that have a budget that is less than $500,000, organizations that are $500,000 with a budget up to $1 million, and organizations with a budget that exceeds $1 million. So when you get into EC Impact, you'll see all of this will be very clear. There are drop-down menus that kind of guide you through this process. But so if you have if your organization's budget is less than $500,000, then you may request one of the following funding amounts: $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $25,000, or $50,000. So the amount that you select will be proportionate to your approved 2020 budget. If your budget is $500,000 to $1 million, your organization may request $25,000, $50,000, $75,000, or $100,000 in support of your general operating, the general operating of operations of your organization. And finally, if your budget is greater than $1 million, your organization may request $50,000, $75,000, $100,000, or $150,000. So the amount of funding that you can request is directly tied to your 2022 board approved budget. Another eligibility requirement that we wanted to call out to you, because we know that down the road this is going to be required if we enter into contract with your organization. Your organization must be registered or in the process of registering in sam.gov. And additionally, your organization must be registered or in the process of registering with the City of Columbus Vendor Services. So just so you're aware, so you can reach out to these platforms and begin that process. Additionally, your organization must adhere to the non-discrimination clause that has been outlined by the City of Columbus. We absolutely want to support organizations that are providing services without regard to race and religion and everything that's listed here. So if you have questions, we're going to address some of those today, but after we conclude this webinar, we want you to email your questions directly to Human Service programs at columbus.gov, because we want to capture your questions, and we will assemble a frequently asked question. We'll have FAQs that are posted on the city's website. So in order to make sure that everyone has access to the same information, we ask that you direct questions to that email box so that we can answer them and post it in one place. Every application is due by 5 p.m. on Friday, May 13th. We are not accepting any late applications. We will accept one application per organization. So that is it. Michael, are there questions at this point before I hand the baton off to our colleagues at the United Way?
We do have 3 that are relevant. I'm going to go in the order in which they were asked.
Thank you.
The first is from Catherine, and the question is, what if your organization doesn't directly address unsheltered homelessness, infant vitality, or refugee-specific housing services, but through other human-centered support services, i.e. workforce development, food bank capacity, which indirectly addresses those focus areas? Further, should a workforce development or other human service organization apply for these funds or wait for the opportunity later this summer?
I think that, we realize that there are a continuum of services. We don't expect that everyone who is addressing unsheltered homelessness is literally providing a shelter over someone's head. We realize that there's really a continuum. So if how your organization addresses helping people to remain stably housed is by providing workforce development opportunities, then you would just, you would explain that in your application. Am I misspeaking, Kim?
No, that's a really good question, and we talked about that as we were putting this together. It really is going to be for you to show us how your mission or your work is impacting one of, not necessarily all of them, but just one of them. So I think you can, the way it's kind of funny, probably everybody could apply and show some way of impacting. So it's really going to be up to you to show us how you do that. So yeah, if it's not directly, like if you're an agency that's directly working with pregnant moms who, because of the work that you're trying to do to reduce infant mortality and increase infant vitality, then yeah, that makes sense to apply. But there are going to be agencies, a lot of you, who are indirectly impacting one of those 3 areas. So yeah, please apply. And it kind of goes to another question I saw, Michael, about will these be the same 3 areas for the summer? That's yet to be determined what summer ones will be. They could be exactly the same 3, but we also may be looking at additional areas.
Thank you, Kim and Dana. The next question was from Carolyn. What are the levels of awards asks within the tiers tied to?
The 2022 board-approved budget of your organization. So if your organization has a budget of $2 million, a board-approved budget for 2022 of $2 million, then you will see a drop-down menu in the EC Impact platform, and you would request up to $150,000.
So, and I'll just add 2 things to that, because this may have been in part of that question of, we put different levels, like, so within that above 1 million, you have 2 or 3 choices. So you don't have to take the full amount. If you feel like in your budget, you want to handle a lesser amount, we're giving you that option. But what we're not allowing people to do is say, I want $152,000, 433 and 2 cents. So it's there, you're going to ask for specific amounts, but we're giving people choices. So like in the smaller organizations, if I have a budget of $50,000 from 2022, should I ask for 50, or maybe I should be asking for a smaller amount?
Yes.
But we're going to leave that up to you to show why you're choosing that amount and how you're going to use that. And then the second thing I wanted to say is we did this so that if you're under 500,000, you're only going to compete against those who are under 500. So you're not competing against the bigger agencies. We're only seeing that within those levels.
One other thing I would mention, Kim, is to go back to the question of how much can you request. So if we as the city reserve the right to help you hone in on what we feel is a proportionate request. So, for example, if your budget is $100,000, you would be, as Kim said, we would expect that you would request a smaller amount than the $100,000 because we are helping to increase your organization's capacity, and by that, we don't mean doubling your budget, really, right? So you may ask for an amount and we may bump it down for you. Just think about, we're trusting you. We want you to be thoughtful about the requests that you're making, and it should be proportionate to your 2022 approved budget.
Thank you both. The next couple of questions can be consolidated into this. Can you give a brief overview of the reporting requirements, since it's a federal grant, for those agencies that have not sought or received federal dollars previously?
Well, we know that we are still developing what the reporting what we are going to need from each organization, but just very broadly, we know that you will have to report your expenditures, and they will be tied to the guidance and the federal guidance in terms of the expenditure categories that they have identified that are appropriate in the, I don't want to talk in circles, but we are going to provide expenditure categories to each organization, and you will report what you have spent those funds on in a pre-identified expenditure category. So we will have budget forms for you to complete, right, Kim? And we will have, and they will align with the budget categories that we will provide to you. And I know, Kim, you've sort of gone through this reporting with the emergency rental assistance. So perhaps you could paint a little bit more of a picture for people who may not have received federal funding, just based on your experience with that other funding source.
Sure. I mean, one of the things that Dana and I are going to do is try to make it the least onerous possible for you as an agency. And so some of this reporting burden is going to be on us, because basically what you report to us, we then report to the U.S. Treasury. So one of the things I think even more to consider, more than the reporting, since we're going to try to keep it as simple as possible, is that the potential for monitoring and for auditing from the U.S. Treasury. So because each agency that gets funded will be a subrecipient of the city. So you will be taking on, you're basically an arm of the city as far as the federal government is looking at it. So basically that auditing can go all the way down into each agency, not just with the city. So that's the thing to realize, is that it may not be the quantity of reporting, it's the oversight that's going to be a big part of this federal funding.
The next question is from Melissa. We were preparing to submit 2 applications based on teams that worked separately in housing and infant vitality, but we saw that you said just 1 application per agency. Should we combine the application and stick with one subject?
So if I understand the question correctly, there are teams within the same organization, but focused on different, more than one of the pre-identified focus areas. Is that correct, Michael?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, so it's still one organization, right? So
That's correct.
Yes. So we are, I think it would be appropriate to still submit just one application, because we are supporting this organization as it seeks to fulfill its mission in providing the services in the space of unsheltered housing and infant vitality. So you tell us about the work that your organization does, and we, in turn, as the city, are supporting that organization. We want to strengthen your organization's capacity to fulfill your mission in the community. And perhaps your organization's mission is to boost infant vitality and address unsheltered homelessness. Still, it would be one organization because you're under one umbrella, and therefore one application.
The next question is, I think, an easy one for you. Does this funding preclude us from other ARPA opportunities from the city of Columbus?
No, not at all.
The next question is, the NOFA mentions funding is for 1 year with the possibility of 2 years of additional funding. Can you please speak more about that?
Well, we realize that to strengthen an organization, you need more than one calendar year. So we're going to start with 1 year. And if, everything is going well, if you've managed your funds appropriately, we want to extend the opportunity for 2 additional years of funding, because we know that it's good for your organization. You'll know that you have that income. You'll know that that revenue is coming for 3 years. So you'll have sort of a strengthened foundation for that period of time. So we're not guaranteeing it, but it is our hope and our intent that we would be able to support your organization, not just for 1 calendar year, but for 3 years.
So just to add to that, so when the mayor and city council announced this, there was a commitment to a 3-year funding, but we can't, those of you who've worked with the city, it's like we can't say for 2023, the funding is now available. It's like it's always contingent on, is the funding going to be available? But the commitment is for 3 years. So you will not be competing for, like, going through a competition for year 2 or for year 3. So there's a commitment to 3 years, and then there's performance of the organization for each year that goes into the next year funding.
The next question is, would these grant dollars cover the salary of, for example, an ombudsman to help new American residents in HUD housings?
The funding is supporting your organization. So how you allocate that funding is up to you. So when we're talking about general operating support, what goes into that is all of your sort of back office operations, your staffing, any of those areas that you choose to allocate. So absolutely, they can cover a staff position. They can cover your rent. They can cover your utilities. We want to help you be on, as an organization, be on firmer footing to fulfill your mission in the community.
The next question is, may we apply to both grant opportunities, this one and the one coming later this summer? Especially if we don't get the first grant, can we apply for that next one?
Yes, I think so. I think you could apply for both opportunities. Is that right, Kim?
So it's yes and no. So if you get funded in this round, then no, you could not apply the next round. If you apply this time and don't get funded, then yes, you could submit. That's either the same application, or you can talk through it with us and we can look at how to strengthen that application. And it depends on what those focus areas are going to be, this summer. But so that's why I'd say yes, no. Yes, you can apply if you don't get funded in this first wave, but no, if you do get funded, you can't apply again.
Which makes sense, because you wouldn't be drawing from two different funding sources and then have, dual tracks of 3 years of funding. We want this opportunity. We want to be able to assist as many organizations in the community as we can.
Right.
The next question is, I have seen the list of potential capacity building activities, but can you please talk a bit about what you might expect to be approved for funding, especially in the hiring, retaining, and managing personnel areas? I assume, for example, salaries would not be approved.
I don't think that's the case. If what your organization needs, because we're not funding a program or a project, we're funding your organization and your general operating requirements. And you absolutely do have to have staffing in order to really fulfill your mission in the community. Am I saying that correctly, Kim?
Yeah, so like what we are not doing, like as Dana said, we're not funding a program. We're not funding an initiative, and we're especially not funding something new that you're designing now. It's like, no, here's our organization. It really is for general operating. It's really for those things that I know Dana and I both had feedback, and Michael could probably say this too, from nonprofits through the years. It's like, man, if you could just give me some flexible funds that just for our operations that are, I mean, ideally we would have said, like, here's the money, and we wouldn't even have a focus area, but because we have to have some focus on impact, we chose these 3 areas, knowing that many of you are going to be able to apply. But it really is for general operations. It's really, if you look at philanthropy now, one of the things that they're saying is nonprofits need general operating capacity funding. And we're experimenting with this, and we're going to look to you to say, here's how we want to use this money for us because we've been negatively impacted over these last couple of years because of COVID. We're rebuilding. Here's what we want to use this money for. You tell us, so you convince us how you want to invest it.
Thank you both. The next question is, will the awards be all or nothing? I.e., if you are eligible for up to $150,000 and you apply for that amount, might you be awarded less?
It's possible, because we don't know at this point how many applications we're going to receive. Is that right, Kim? We
It's
want
not, yeah, it won't be all or nothing though. It's going to be, I mean, it might be nothing if we like say we get $15 million worth of
yeah.
applications, like we could spread it out and give everybody $5, or we're going to have to make some decisions of that. But if you apply for 150, it might get bumped down to one of the other 100,000 or the 50,000.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not going to say, well, because they asked for 150, they're gonna get nothing.
We have 5 questions left at this point. The next one is, do amounts of funding change reporting requirements, or will they be universal? For example, does an agency receiving 10,000 need to report in the same way as an agency receiving 100,000?
I think so.
Yeah.
Next question is, what are the dates of the grant year?
I don't remember, Kim. Are we looking at September to maybe September 1st through August 31st, I believe?
So it'll be a 12-month agreement. It could be earlier than that. So it just depends what we'll be writing it into the legislation. So the process will be, once selections are made, we go to city council with those agreements. And if we remember, which I hope between Dana and I, we should remember, we'll write into the legislation a beginning date and an end date.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it's going to be the date of the purchase order, which could be, later in the year. So that the goal is to get these to council before the end of July when they go on recess. So at the I would say we're going to look at a 12-month contract, probably starting August 1st. Could start August 1st. We could make it start July 1st.
Mm-hmm.
We'll figure that out. We'll let people know. But it's a
we're not
12-month budget.
Yes, and we're not waiting until the end of the year. I mean,
No.
the idea is to have it available sooner rather than later. So we're really racing ahead to try to get this to council before they go on recess, as Kim said.
The next question is a clarifying question. So if you receive funding from this grant, an organization cannot apply for the RFP grant, competitive grant opportunity, later this summer.
That's correct.
Okay. Next question is, since this grant is for flexible funds, what would the reporting be linked to as far as output?
Well, we are still we're still working on that. So I'm going to share this question with my good friend Kim.
Hey, so as far as the federal requirement, if we, depending on the expenditure category we use, there may not be an output specifically to that category. It just may be about your expenditures and where you spent the money. But because as a city, we want to show impact in these 3 areas, we will work with you to tie an output of some kind. So it'll be something we generate together and negotiate together in terms of reporting to the city. So the city can say, yes, we did have an impact on infant vitality. Yes, we did have an impact on unsheltered homelessness. Yes, we did have an impact on housing stability for immigrant refugees. So that's going to be that output piece would be negotiated with us.
Thank you. The next question is, roughly when do you believe decisions will be reached regarding the applications?
We want to have this ready. We will have recommendations and everything. We want to have all of this process wrapped up and presented to City Council for a vote of approval by July 18th, right, Kim?
Yeah, that's our deadline.
Mm-hmm.
The next question is, and some of these are related to the United Way website. So actually I'm going to pause on the United Way website questions until the United Way presentation.
And I think,
Go ahead.
Michael, if I may interrupt you, I want to be respectful of Troy Rindler's time. He has made time to walk us through the EC Impact platform. So if we could just pause the questions now and have people direct those to the chat. I want to give Troy an opportunity to walk us through logging on EC Impact and all of that, just so that will be recorded for people to refer back to as well. Troy, are you able to go ahead and share that information with us now?
Here we go. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
All right. Okay. So and everyone can see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So just really quickly, this is a pretty simple RFP in terms of the application, since it's just an agency level, one application, one form, not too complicated. So because we have, there are a lot of things now on this system. One thing I want to kind of call out, you can scroll down and find, it'll be the city, under the City of Columbus. Here it is. Okay. City of Columbus at the bottom, right above. It may be above something different for you all. This is our test agency, so it has everything. There's the Elevate application. So that's how you would start your application. I'm going to go back up to the top just to show you something else. You can do a Control F or search and search for that Elevate, and it'll bring you to that same spot, just as a quicker find for this. So once you click the application, there's a lot of good information here, a lot of the same stuff that Dana and Kim have shared already, and then the actual application and the attachments. So when you go into the application, you'll see, again, all of this stuff has been or will be shared again. I want to call out a couple things. These question marks just give you some additional information when you hover over them, some contextual information. I know someone had asked about the utilizing multiple focus areas. These are individual questions, so you can absolutely select yes on multiple. That's pretty much it. When you select, I do want to show, when you select the 500,000, it will give you a specific breakdown of the funding amounts that you can apply for. So it's kind of a quick overview. Does anyone have any questions while I'm in here?
So Troy, there may be a lot of agencies that have never gone into EC Impact.
Sure.
So how would they do that?
Sure. So we will send out a link to the agency homepage. I am logged in. Let's see. I've got to copy the agency link over real quick here. So this is now that'll work. Okay, so this is the home page. You just type in, so if you've never used it before, new to EC Impact, you click here, hit next, and then you'll have to enter your EIN. I don't have a sample one, so I'm not going to enter one right now. It will refer back to, I believe it's GuideStar, and just verify agency information and that you're, you know, updated and all of that. When you click next, you'll see an agency profile, and then you'll be able to select an open process to enter into, and of course this one would be the city ARPA Elevate application. Is that helpful, Kim?
That to me is, does anyone have questions specifically about getting on to EC Impact?
There was one question from someone that's live in the system and they did not see the application. I'm not sure if your walk through how to log in assisted, but if that person or anybody else in the chat could note if they're having challenges with identifying the application once they're in the system, I think that would be good, so that the United Way could answer that in real time right now.
And again, if you, because there are like, and especially some of the organizations that I see attending here, there are a lot of stuff in EC Impact that you all may have. If you do that Control F, Control Find, Elevate, that should assist that process.
There is a new question that's germane, I think. Someone is trying to create an account, but they're getting a message saying that it is a duplicate, but the person that is currently in the United Way EC Impact system is no longer with the organization. How should that agency deal with that challenge? Yep, I just shared our reporting email. So send us an email and we'll get you added on there to the account that exists. Great. The next question is, I saw the application and then selected apply, then got an email that says it is ready to submit, but now I'm not seeing it on the left-hand side of the screen. Okay. Let's see. I would, okay. Yeah, I'm saying you can always send that reporting.help an email, and we can review, we can figure out what's going on. I do believe that once you have submitted, we have selected to hide this just to, again, reduce clutter. So if you have submitted, you will no longer see this application process. So that would be why, you know, if you have submitted, you won't be able to see it. It's because we've kind of hid that.
So if someone wants to, like if it's not past the deadline, which is May 13th, do you think we could allow people to go back and do a revision, like they had an oops, like, oops, we forgot X, Y, and Z prior to May 13th?
Yep.
Dana, we can do that, right? Let people, if they've submitted, so that you would go to the reporting.help, say, oops, please open this back up for us.
Yeah, and we'll move it to, it's called an allow revision status, and you'll be able to open it back up and it will re-show on your screen.
And then they would resubmit. They would submit again.
Yep.
Another thing for those of you who've done this, as well as those of you who've not done it, there's going to be a place where it says completed, ready to submit. That is not submit. So you have I don't know, is it Troy, is it a red button?
I
It
believe.
says submit. So make sure you hit submit and you get, it all turns green and says, you know, gives you balloons and fireworks and
And
all kinds of stuff.
and a confirmation email, right?
And a confirmation email.
So if you don't have a confirmation email, then I would go back to that reporting.help email and ask, and please don't wait until 4:45 on May 13th to investigate this. Try to submit your application early. If you need to get back into it, it's possible up until that 5 o'clock point, but obviously you see what happened to us today. Technology will have something for you every day of the week. So we don't want to rely, we don't want to wait till the last minute with some of these things.
And those of you who know me know that I'm really a very mean person. But however, because I'm not really that mean, but if it's 5:01, and this happened to me last year, someone turned it in at 5:01 or 5:04, and I just had to say no. It's just, it breaks my heart to do that, but you have to draw a line somewhere.
Yes.
And really quickly, I saw in the chat some people saying that the Control F didn't work for them. And thanks, Jack, for sending. If you click this grant applications, you should see it there potentially. If it's not showing up on your the left side of your screen, if you click the grant applications, that's where it should show up. So I just wanted to highlight that.
Troy, not to give you homework, but let me make a humble suggestion.
Sure.
Would it be possible for you to either record your screen and create a little video to walk people through the step-by-step process from when they would initially log in all the way to submitting the grant, or conversely, or perhaps in addition, create a slide deck of screenshots showing the process to help folks understand precisely how to navigate the system?
Yeah, I can do that, and I'll get it over to Dana.
Thank you.
At the end of the week.
Thanks, Troy.
And again, what materials we have, we're going to also make them available on the Human Service Chamber's website. I believe we'll have the application posted. It's also available on the city's website and under the Development Department tab. We will have the recording posted to the Human Service Chamber's website. I know Michael's going to email it. We'll also have it posted to the city's website. And I just want to direct everyone to send questions about the RFP, about Elevate. Send those to the city, to the Human Service email address that we posted, so that we can capture that information and put it in the FAQs so that everyone would have the opportunity to see that.
Just a quick compliment to that, Dana. If someone has submitted a question in the chat today, I will be sending all of those questions directly to the Human Service Programs at Columbus.gov email address.
Great.
So you don't have to duplicate that question there.
Great. Thank you.
Of course. All of this and everything that has been made available to each of you will be put on the Chamber website, including step-by-step instructions to get to the United Way website, et cetera, et cetera. If you are part of an agency that's a member of the Chamber, the CEO or ED of your agency will be receiving an email with all this information later today as well, and I'm sure they will happily forward it to you. If you're not a member of the Chamber, you've hopefully heard about this from the city or the United Way or the Columbus Foundation or somewhere else. But if nothing else, you can go to the city website or to our website, and all of this will be there as well. And if you don't find it later, you can always reach out to any of us directly, and we'll happily send things your way. Dana and Kim, there are a few other substantive questions that have come in. Are you okay with me asking those of you now, or do you have a few other pieces that you wanted to walk through?
I don't have, no, please go ahead.
Okay, great. The first question is, are there specific forms for the budget in the actuals for 2019, 2020, and 2021? Or are we to use our own format and upload those documents?
Use your own format. We did not want to have you have to recreate. So basically, you're going to save your budget as a PDF and upload it to the application as an attachment.
Great. The next question is, will a printed copy of the application and questions be shared with us, or
Yes.
will we only have access to the application once we're in EC Impact?
The application is currently available on the City of Columbus's website under the Department of Development tab. You will see the opportunity. It pops up right away, and we'll also provide that a copy of the application to the Human Service Chamber to add to their website as well, so that there is an application that you can look at, maybe work on it in Word or another application, so that you can, then just copy and paste your information over if that works better for you.
Just want to add to that we did put a character count in all the questions.
Yeah.
That's because we will have volunteer reviewers, and so we want all of you to just be as concise and as possible, and just we think it's enough characters, but if you get to character 3,999 and you have a couple more words to say, you're gonna have to go back and do something to change that. So we're not going to change that character count.
The next question is, since the focus is on capacity building, does it matter whether the organization also serves cities outside of Columbus?
No, I think that that's okay. We know that there are some organizations that serve other cities in the state of Ohio or even nationally, but as far as we want to see that you are doing significant work in one of the three focus areas to assist residents of Columbus and Franklin County. We absolutely want you to be able to show us, to demonstrate that in your application.
So just to add to that, Michael, so if there is no services provided within the City of Columbus, then I would say we couldn't look at that for funding. So you would have to show how you are impacting those focus areas for residents of the City of Columbus. You can talk about the other cities briefly if you want to, but if what we're going to really look at is the impact on Columbus residents.
A quick follow-up on the word count, character count. The question is the character count on the grant packet? It says word count, but not character count currently.
Yeah, I think within EC Impact it says character.
Yes, but they're equivalent.
Right. I think it's like 400 words, but we said 4,000 characters.
So,
however it's worded on our separate application that you can download outside of EC Impact, it's equivalent to the word count that you will see in EC Impact.
and we use just a general 5 characters per word translation there. So for 400 words, it'll be 2,000 characters. That seems to be the standardized.
Okay.
Another question regarding the application on the website. It asks yes or no if your organization is accredited and by whom. Can you please clarify what that means?
I had answered that earlier in the chat. That is specific to the agency profile, not really, and that's just a consistent automated portion. It's not really germane to this RFP.
Next question is the current certificate of registration from the Ohio Attorney General's office the same as the certificate of good standing form or the online screenshot on the OAG's website for charitable registration?
I believe so.
So that's what we're looking for is, are you registered as a charitable organization? And then I think the OAG requires you to do an annual report that kind of keeps you in good standing. So those are things that we could potentially go and check. So you're basically checking off saying, yes, we're taking care of that.
The next question is, realizing that these are ARPA dollars, were requests that were originally submitted through the city's ARPA portal last summer, fall, winter ever reviewed? What should an organization do that has submitted an ARPA request through that particular recovery portal?
So this is a totally separate process. And so those proposals are still where they are. They're not part of the work that we're doing, at least not at this point. So if you have a proposal that's in that portal, you can still apply under this opportunity. So you're not going to be, so we're not going to go back and look at that list and say, well, they have already applied, therefore they're not eligible. So we're keeping it totally separate from that. I hope that answered that question.
Last call for questions. That was the last one that we had in the queue.
Well, I want to thank all of you for your time this morning, for your thoughtful questions. And we look forward to going through this process with you. Thank you to the Human Service Chamber for hosting us and being great partners in this work. Thank you, Troy, for joining us today. And we ask you to please just email those 2 email addresses, the one for the city and the one for EC Impact. If you have substantive questions, send them to the city. If it's I can't find something, send it to EC Impact, and we'll do our best to stay connected and answer whatever questions are out there. But I want to thank you all for attending today, and thank you for all that you're doing every day on behalf of Columbus residents. We are grateful to each one of you. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye, everybody.